Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Wedding Ceremony Podcast. We talk about anything and everything that has to do with wedding ceremonies. My name is Clint Hufton. With me is a gentleman that found us a special guest, the one and only J.P. Reynolds.
Clint, good to see you. And I am excited to introduce our special guest, Michelle Groom. Michelle, go introduce yourself.
Hi. I'm Michelle Groom. I am the owner of Mele Amore Events. We specialize in wedding planning here in Southern California. We're based in Orange County, but we go everywhere. So up to LA, Santa Barbara, out of state, Hawaii, Arizona, everywhere. So I met JP early on in my career. We've been around for about 16 years now, and JP was one of the first officiants that we started working with, and we just absolutely adore him. We love him. Very professional and just gets things done and always makes me look good. So thanks, JP.
You, Michelle, you make me look good.
Real quick, I want to make sure
Awesome.
that everybody knows exactly the name of your company. It's Mel, M-E-L-E, and then Amore, A-M-O-R-E.
My favorite go-to question, Michelle, is what do you think is the most common mistake that an officiant makes, be it a professional officiant or now in this day and age, the guest officiants or
Actually, two things that pop up in my head right away. And it's something I go through with every officiant I meet, even like churches. One is move out of the way when the kiss. It's so creepy when the bride and groom are, having their first kiss as husband and wife, and you see an officiant in the background just kind of like creeping in on it. That's my number one, like move out of the way. Number two is when the ceremony actually starts, make sure you tell everyone to sit down. Even just a couple of weeks ago, we had a wedding at a church, and the priest, he forgot to tell everyone to sit down. So for an hour-long ceremony, all of the guests were standing the whole time. So
oh,
usually if that happens, you'll see me in the back kind of doing like little squats, like trying to tell everyone like sit down. Or our team will kind of like come around and start telling like maybe the family to sit down, but we can't always do that, especially like at churches. We have to be respectful. So those are the two things, officiants, like make sure one, move out of the way and don't look creepy. And two, make sure you let everybody sit down. You give them that guidance.
That's bizarre to me. And we keep hearing
Yeah.
that over and over and over again. That's just
It,
freaky.
yes, yeah.
yeah.
Those would be the number two. Those would be the two top that
Yeah.
we constantly hear. And I'm not officiating weddings. I'm a corporate communications trainer, and I coach executives in how to speak. And so I get the whole notion of being nervous and lost in your head.
Mhm.
But at some point, do you not see these
I
people?
know. Exactly.
And they're like shuffling around and everyone's kind of like looking and
And
it's like,
I
oh my
also,
goodness.
and I think it also says something about human nature. There isn't some feisty aunt or
Yeah.
grandmother like just says, the heck with this. I'm taking a load off my feet and just plops
Yeah.
down. But people talk about sheep without a shepherd.
Yeah. Yes, it happens more often than not. So those are always like my two big things. Whenever we have a ceremony, we always tell the officiant, like, hey, don't forget these things. If you need to write it into your script, write it in, but make sure you get these things done.
You know how
Yeah.
tradition was that before the bride came in, the mother of the bride would stand up. JP, you and I both tell everybody to please rise, but that was
Yeah.
the back in the day that would signal everybody to stand up. And then I
Yeah.
guess it goes without saying that when she sits
hmm
down, everybody sits down. Now I'm starting to think that maybe when we do our prep before the ceremony, perhaps the event planner or whatever could tell the
hmm
families. And then when the couple gets up there, you guys can sit down. Everybody will do whatever you do. So that takes all the burden off of the officiant.
Well, for us, we do tell the family that we do make sure, like, okay, mom, this is like your time to like sit down. But a lot of times, the family is so overwhelmed with emotions that
Yeah.
they end up forgetting, and they're like, wait, but the officiant didn't say it, they didn't signal it. Yeah, they kind of look to the officiant as like the ringleader of you're telling all these people what to do, and
Especially in a church or a synagogue, the clergy has
Mhm.
such a place of authority I get
Mhm.
that. They don't want to do anything that's going to go against them. I get that.
Yeah, I've said this before, Clint, in our conversation. So, Michelle, I think you may know that I was born and raised in New York City, and I'm from the Bronx. And what fascinated me, well, many things fascinated me when I moved to the West Coast. There is a clear distinction between East Coast wedding attitude and West Coast, and perhaps you've picked this up. I did a wedding last weekend, and most of the guests were from the East Coast, from the New York area. And my God, I mean, everybody was on time. Okay. So
Yes.
start time is 5:15, 5 o'clock. People are starting to go into their seats. Okay.
Hmm.
By 5:10, there's not an empty seat to be found. Okay. 5:15, that wedding party starts rolling down the aisle, and I didn't even have to ask people to stand. They knew when to
They
stand.
know.
Just as I was saying, please be seated, they were already in the process of being seated. And there's a part of me that wants to say maybe East Coast people have more of a church background, and so they've been
Mm.
trained in wedding
Oh,
etiquette. I don't know if you've noticed that or.
Yeah. No, actually, I have. I have noticed that, but it actually carries on throughout the day. So, with anytime that we have families that are from the East Coast, I already know tip jars at the bar are a huge no-no. Like, there's just certain things that, yeah, I think you're right. I think that they just have it ingrained in them, the wedding etiquette, and they just have it down packed. Like,
I wonder what it's like in the deep South, in the Bible Belt, where,
mm,
church is a regular thing in most of the culture. If they have the same kind of sense of propriety and schedule, and if they would stand up and be seated on their own or something like that, that'd be curious to find that out.
So obviously, many, 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 many couples are now inviting the relatives, I call them the drunken college roommate, to officiate. Do
mhm.
you, in your capacity, spend time interacting with the guest officiant? Do you offer guidance? How do you treat the guest officiant differently than, say, myself or Clint?
When we have a professional officiant who does it regularly, like we don't interact, because it is for us, we feel like also like the couple that is kind of like sacred of, what is going to be said during the ceremony. It's very intimate between the two of them and how they want to say their vows and all the things. When we have friends or families that officiate, we like to put the onus back onto the couple of just make sure that you are reading through exactly what they're saying. Make sure that you are demanding a script, that they are timing themselves. With couples, I'll kind of like get a good gauge of, okay, this is someone who they kind of seem like the officiant's gonna like wing it a little bit. At those points, like I'll start like, okay, let me call them, let me talk to them, let me take a look at what they're saying, and let me kind of ask them some questions. And we will offer some guidance because obviously, like, we want every one of our couples to have a beautiful ceremony. We want it to go off without a hitch. But there's just sometimes it's so unpredictable. So that some of the things that are said during ceremonies, oh my God, like, why? Why would you say that?
Okay, come on. We need a few quotes here.
There we go.
Oh my goodness. No, I remember there was one, it was so memorable. They had like a brother-in-law that officiated and they were so excited about it. The brother-in-law was very religious. The couple wasn't. He was like, "Okay, I promise I'm not going to bring religion into it." And during the ceremony, it's almost over. He's about to pronounce them, and then out of nowhere, he's like, "You both need to accept God in your life right now, or your marriage will be hell, and you're both going to hell." And and I
No.
was like, "What?" And then he's like, "Repent right now and accept Jesus as your savior." And they both were like, "What the hell is going
Oh
on
my
here?" And
gosh.
uh it's like, go to the DJ, like just start playing the music, like let's get this out of here. There's just a lot of unpredictable things that can happen when you're not hiring a professional officiant.
Wait just a second. Let me just get this straight. He does that. And then did
Yes.
you tell the DJ to start playing like at an awards show where they play the music and
Yes.
the hook comes out?
Yes,
Oh,
yes. Because it
wow.
was so like, what do you do at that point? Like the bride and the groom are like looking like help, and there's nothing more to say. So we just kind of like lightly turned on the music and kind of like, like nudging him, like, okay, we're done. And he's like, okay, I now pronounce you husband and wife. And then they walked away. But it
Man.
was
Well, it
so
sounds like I now
awkward.
pronounce you sinner and sinner.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I love that story for so many reasons, one of which is it really proves that we will never be able to say, quote, I've seen it all.
Yep.
Just when you
True.
think any of us have seen it all, there's that one
Get surprised.
splendid moment.
Michelle,
Yeah.
you need to know that JP and I started the Wedding Ceremony podcast 10 years ago with the idea of, well, let's just tell stories about what we've gone through. And
Oh,
we were
wow.
wondering how long the podcast would last. Well, the first season lasted 8 years and there were 325 episodes, and we never ran out of stuff to talk about. Do you know how that is?
It's so true. You think you've seen it all, and then, yeah, then something new happens, and you're just, wow, people are crazy.
On behalf of our
It
entire
is.
audience, thank you so much for that story. That is awesome. Oh my gosh.
Anytime.
That's good stuff. So you mentioned that you asked to see a script. Did you ever get any pushback from the officiant? Because some of them, I think, they think, I know what I'm doing and I don't need to answer to you. Do you get that kind of thing?
I do sometimes, but honestly, if it's a professional officiant, I don't push on a script, but I do tell my couples like, hey, you probably want at least an outline. You want to discuss it with your officiant and just make sure that whatever is being said during the ceremony that you're okay with. But if it is like a family friend, then I do push on it pretty hard. And if they give kickback, then I kind of forewarn the couple like, hey, I don't think it's a good idea. You might want to hire like, here's JP. You can contact him if he's still available. Yeah, just because it can just go sideways like so quickly. So because also like with an officiant, like I remember there was a time I worked with JP and we had, I forgot exactly what happened. I think it was like we had like a bridesmaid say something or a family member kind of like yell out. But I just remember there was something like weird and awkward that happened, and JP just kind of nipped it right really quick and just kept on. And it was almost like if you weren't really listening, you would have missed it. So, that's like another thing. Like, when things unpredictable things happen, you want a professional who's there who knows how to handle those unpredictable moments.
Well, Michelle, I
Yeah.
will say that one of the things that Clint and I share in common is the ability to handle those weird, unexpected. That is our specialty. Weird,
Yeah.
unexpected ceremony moments. Oh yeah, who are
Mhm.
you gonna call? Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I coach professionals in how to speak in at a conference or in a boardroom
Mhm.
with the team members. Ceremony is its own beast because
Mhm.
it's not a toast and it's not a roast and it's not a time for baptism and converting the unsaved.
Mhm.
It's so emotional. I pride myself on making people cry. If you go to my Instagram account, it's just pictures of people crying. I will. I'm very upfront about the couple. I will. We have a great conversation. We're laughing. I said, please, I'm not cheesy, corny, or do stand up, but I am
Mhm.
diehard romantic. And I say to the groom, I say, if you cry, people will slip an extra 50 into the envelope.
Yeah.
People, am I not right?
Yes,
People
we
expect the
believe
bride to
it.
cry. The groom is like, oh, bonus time. But when you look out and you see people crying, and you have a unique position during the ceremony of how you're looking at people, which is different from how Clinton and I are looking at them. But when you see people crying, you kind of wonder, oh, where are those tears coming from? What are those tears?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And there's a lot of times too where I find myself or like my team, I'll look over and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're all like tearing up and crying. A lot of times it's just like you get so emotional because, you get that connection of you see the bride and groom like staring in each other's eyes and just so intently in love that you get choked up. Yeah. And then you see other people crying that are like, I can't believe she's doing it.
Well, you have an opportunity to, I think, create a deeper relationship with the couple because you plan the entire wedding. You know, we work on the ceremony. And I'll be honest with you, true confession time. If the guests are crying, I don't see that because I'm just focused so heavily on the couple and what I'm trying to finish. I'm trying to get through or trying to make sure that every moment is unique. Now, I am aware if the wedding party is crying. I'm very aware of that. On more than one occasion, I always have tissues in my packet of tissues. And on more than one occasion, I've just said, here, take the packet and pass it down to everybody. And honestly, JP, you can tell when the guests are crying.
Oh, yeah. So I have the ceremony memorized, so I'm not reading. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
able to look, I have more flexibility to look at the couple and then look beyond. Yeah, so I don't, but I do the reverse. See, because the wedding party is to my left and right, I don't actually get to see them that much. I have to remind myself that they're there. I mean, other than the best person. Michelle, have you noticed from your perspective, do you think ceremonies have changed in any way, shape, or form since you were beginning?
Yes, I think now couples seem to just kind of make it their own. And I feel like they're doing away with a lot of the fluff. So, like when I started, they would do like unity sand ceremonies and candles. And we had like a pretzel dipping before, like tequila shots, and just kind of like the unity ceremonies and readings. I feel like a lot of couples are doing away with that and just kind of simplifying it and making it really just about the two of them. We're also seeing a lot of couples that are scaling back on their bridal parties. So maybe they only have like one best person and one maid man of honor just standing beside them versus like a huge like bridal party, which I think is sometimes nice. To me, I feel like it's more of a focus on just that moment of the bride and the groom and what they're doing.
So that was a loaded question on my part, or a leading question on my part. Because Clint, have you also seen that like when we started way back when, there was always, oh, you had to have the sand or the wine box or the tiki torches or the, whatever. And now the ceremonies are very focused on what they should be focused on, the
Yeah.
vows, the
Mhm.
rings. And I don't find couples really being drawn to the unity
Yeah.
stuff. Have you found that also, Clint?
Yeah, the unity stuff, like I think before we came into this profession here in Southern California, the unity candle was like the mainstay. And then they would see some ceremonies on TV where they would do sand. And then that became
Mhm.
the thing. A lot of people thought it was obligatory to give flowers to the parents. And that seems to have gone away. It's an evolution, if you will. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I don't mind the rituals. I think they're kind of fun, but I do
Yeah.
like the idea of the couple really making it more about themselves. And although in certain cultures, incorporating their heritage is pretty fun. I like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I have seen a lot of what were the mainstays of a traditional wedding gone away, which is fine.
What's crazy, and I don't know if you guys know this, is that at least like in Orange County, like a lot of the Catholic churches have also gone away with it.
Mhm.
Now, like whenever we have ceremonies in Catholic churches, we have to ask the church what their policy is because a lot of times they don't do the unity candles anymore and they don't do the unity ceremonies. So I know they've gotten away with that. Even like the flowers to the Virgin Mary, that's also been something that I don't know if maybe it just kind of like trickles down to somebody went to a Catholic wedding, they didn't see it happen. And so when they do their own, they're like, we don't need to do it, or that's not something that we remember.
Another thing that seems to be shifting slightly, and I don't know if it's going to catch momentum, is the personal vows, where they write personal vows to each other. More couples have made the decision to share their personal vows privately before the ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found that, JP?
Yeah, about 50%.
Yeah.
It's a substantial number. I used to say to folks, well, you have an option. You have traditional vows, you can have personal vows, you can have a hybrid. And what I found was when people were writing personal vows, I remember it clearly. I was at this wedding, I was standing there, and it's an honor. It is a deep, deep honor to bear witness to these vows. But then I started flashing on this, one of my best buds from college. And I'm thinking, I think Norman and I took these vows because it's like, no, I could say all of this to Norman, like, but they never said the word, I take you as my wife, I take you as my husband. They never used the word wife or husband. And I thought, okay, I'm loosey goosey, but we've gotten tightened up here. So now I don't even think of them as personal vows. I think of them as words of love, gratitude, and appreciation with a nod to tradition. I ask do you take to be husband, wife? And it's I do, I do. So that it alleviates, am I writing a personal vow? Is it a vow? Is it not a vow? It's like, just be sweet, silly, talk to your Norman. You're going to have those traditional iconic words and that question that I'm going to ask you, which will seal what you do. So that's where I've gravitated.
I try to give them a guideline.
Yeah.
I say, if it's going to be in the ceremony, make sure it's less than 500 words. The other thing I say is, don't give us a history. Just look at each other, talk to each other, and tell why you want to get married. That's the most important thing. What they need to wrap their mind around is the fact that that's what brings the guests in, is the intimacy and the credibility of the authenticity between the two of them. When I say less than 500 words, sometimes that kind of opens the door, like, oh, maybe we don't do it during the ceremony.
We're seeing that as well. Just even this past weekend, they did their own personal vows. They didn't want anybody around, but just the two of them. Or the couple sometimes will ask to have the mic turned off as they say their vows during the ceremony.
Oh.
So they'll say them in front of everyone, but they won't broadcast it. They just say it to each other.
I will admit, drives me or breathing.
I remember one specific time that happened, one specific time, and I had to say to the guests, they would like this to be an intimate moment between the two of them. Let's give them that space.
And everyone's like, what? What did he say? Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's what I don't want. During the pandemic, I had to do a ceremony out at the beach. And because of social distancing, there was about maybe 15 people around, but they weren't close. And we were at the beach. I remember when the couple was doing personal vows to each other, a mom or an aunt or somebody 10 feet away said, I can't hear you.
They should have held up a seashell, try to listen to the seashell. So, Michelle, is there any standard advice that you give to couples as they envision their ceremony, recognizing that it is that sacred space and you honor that?
I always especially when we're doing our rehearsals, I tell my couples, you know what, don't worry about where you're standing, who you're looking at, what to do with your hands. Just be present in the moment, be present. Don't worry about your guests, looking around at your audience or any of that kind of stuff. And then also just in terms of an officiant, make sure that you're selecting an officiant that you would go and have dinner with, that you would hang out with, or that you really feel a connection to, because they're going to be representing you during your ceremony, and you want to make sure that they're representing you and your relationship properly. That's probably my biggest advice to my couples whenever I talk to them about an officiant.
I love that. Treat them like you would want to go out to dinner with them. It's like, sure, I'm available.
Yeah. Throw back some beers. Yeah. Yeah. But you would be surprised. Sometimes I'm like, why did you pick them? You don't like them. Why do you want them to officiate if you're after the fact of, well, I don't really they kind of bother me. And it's like, well, why did you pick them? You want to make sure that you enjoy their company and it's going to be pleasant. And to all my officiants out there, my biggest word of advice is, can you please just come on the day of maybe an hour before the ceremony so we can mic check you and make sure you know where to go and just kind of familiarize yourself. It's crazy, especially with some of the non the family members that are officiating now, that they're like, oh, the ceremony starts at 5. I'll be there at 4:55. And then it's oh, but I got stuck in traffic. And it's at 4:45, I'm 15 minutes before, I'm lining everybody up and we're where's the officiant? Where's he going? So,
have you ever had to delay the ceremony because the officiant wasn't there?
Yes.
Wow.
I have. We've had times where we've had to, I've had to ask the DJ to step in, because I know that one, it just kind of like fell into place where the DJ, I knew he had officiated a few weddings. So I was like, hey, the officiant's still not here. We're waiting. He's not answering his phone. I'm not sure what's going on. Can you just like get things started? And I might have to have you like jump in. So we have had those times, and you see the officiant like running in, and he's like all sweaty. He's like, "Oh my God, there's traffic! I got stuck in valet." And I'm like, "Well, just come early, please." Like that's why I ask you to get there early. Yeah, yeah. And then afterwards, they're like, why don't you ever call me anymore? Why don't you ever like refer us?" And I'm like, dude, you were like 15 minutes late to the ceremony. You have one job.
That's ridiculous. Oh man.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
we've run out of time. I just looked at the clock and realized we could probably keep going for hours because you're so good at this.
Oh.
But we have to wrap this up. So if you would please, Michelle, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
You can visit our website, meleamore.com. That's MELEAMORE.com. You can also find me on Instagram. We're at Mele, MELE underscore AMORE. And if you're really having a tough time, just ask JP. He knows how to get a hold of me.
Very good.
Absolutely.
JP, how do they
All
get in
right.
touch with you?
JP at jprweddings.com, and social media is at jprweddings.
Brilliant. And it's just my name, clinthuff.com, CLINTHUFFT.com for all the things that I do. I want to make sure that we don't forget to tell everybody about your communication coaching. You referenced it earlier in the episode. Thebusinessofconfidence.com is that website. Also, JP is an accomplished author, and his books are in the Amazon store and in the Kindle store in Amazon, and they're all about weddings, and it's awesome. They're brilliant. All right, that's it for this episode of the Wedding Ceremony Podcast. This is Clint, and on behalf of JP and Michelle, we will see you next time.